Hello everyone, welcome to this MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. My name is Bess McCarty, coach for network marketers, also the shrink of MLM. Sorry, my phone was misbehaving this morning and was having a hard time reaching Jeff, so I'm just here doing the show. The topic today is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill's Life Story. Welcome, Shamala, you got on. Okay, all right, welcome. Welcome, Sherry. Welcome, Dana. Okay, so usually Jeff Gamble and I are presenting this show, and we'll be back to normal tomorrow, doing a recap of Think and Grow Rich. So this show is designed to help people grow, to educate, equip, and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. That's what we do on this generic show, sponsored by our generic school, the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers. And welcome, everybody. Okay, I'm so glad you all got on, and thank you for waiting for the delays. So what we've been doing for a year now is Jeff and I have been coming on here and teaching the Think and Grow Rich, the John Maxwell 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So we love teaching leadership. We've been doing it for years. We're celebrating this month with Think and Grow Rich. We've just covered that book. We just finished it yesterday. It is incredible, you guys. I have, especially the last chapter, it has like 65 assessment questions and ways to evaluate your life, see where the stuck places are, and help you to get past that, including outwitting the 6 ghosts of fear. It's been an intense experience for me to dive into that last chapter and do that assessment and get an overview of the weak places in my life and then change those. It's really, really worthwhile. So highly recommend it. And this just wouldn't be complete without telling you about, bringing you a show about Hill's life. Because, welcome. Okay, glad to see you, hoping. So glad you're here. Okay. So Hill's life, and by the way, if you're watching the replay, please type replay, and I'd love to hear where you're watching from too. I really enjoy that. So what I got from Hill's life, I actually a few years ago wrote an article about that, which I'm going to share the details with you, but he actually had like 9 devastating defeats in his life, which I did not know. I just thought, okay, he wrote this book and he, got rich and all this stuff, but there's so much there, so much strengthening lessons and examples that I feel inspired when I read these things, and how he just kept climbing back. If he can do that, I can do that. I can keep climbing back from my defeats, which aren't even this great. So I'm going to dive right in with Napoleon Hill's life. First of all, he was born in a one-room cabin, and it was his mother died when he was young, and it was his stepmom who used to be, she was the widow of a school teacher, and so she helped young Napoleon. I think that she convinced him to trade his pistols for a typewriter, because he was a real rambunctious kid with a lot of energy and all this stuff. And so she goes, here, use this instead, you can make money with this typewriter. And he did. He ended up writing for his father's newspaper, and then another magazine got hold of him and asked him to do interviews with successful people, which is how he met Andrew Carnegie, who was impressed by Napoleon Hill and said, would you go and interview a project that I will fund your contacts with these 500 most successful people in the world, and pay the operating expenses, but you make your own living during this 20 years that I'd like you to spend on this project. And Hill thought about it for a minute, and he remembered his humble upbringings, but then he quickly said yes. Well, it took him through a lot, that journey. This is what he did in the meantime in those 20 years. So 7 devastating defeats that he faced. It was at age 19 that Hill advanced rapidly in a bookkeeping company from stenographer to manager, receiving pay beyond his years, but then his employer lost his fortune and he lost his position. Okay, defeat number 2. He became a salesman for a large lumber manufacturer. He advanced rapidly to partnership, on top of the world again. Then almost overnight, the 1907 panic wiped out the business and left him penniless again. Defeat number 3. He redirected his efforts to the study of law and determined to claim his fortune there. For money, he wrote magazine articles and worked as an automobile salesman. And he opened a school to train auto mechanics. And believe it or not, the school prospered, and a banker readily loaned him money to grow the school. Then, once Hill was in debt, he calmly walked in and took over. Again, Hill was reduced to poverty. Welcome, just Johanna. Welcome everybody. Thank you. If you know someone who can use this, I love the people. Thank you very much to the people who've tagged, shared, comment, or even shared in other network marketing groups. That's cool. Other people can benefit too. Thank you very much. So, defeat number 4. Through family connections, Napoleon Hill secured a high position in one of the largest coal companies in the world. It was a very comfy and easy job. And guess what? He suddenly resigned for the first time, creating his own failure because the work was too easy. The decision was followed then, that decision of leaving was followed with 10 years of effort full of grief. Not sure whether he would have done it again or not. But welcome from South Africa. Oh, thank you for joining in. I appreciate. So, Napoleon Hill's defeat number 5. He went to Chicago to be an advertising manager for a large correspondence school. He did so well that the president of the school said, hey, let's go into the candy business together. So he became its first president. The company grew to 18 chains and did so well that Hill's partners decided that they wanted to take over the business. So they had him arrested on false charges. And he beat them in court, but he resisted the temptation for revenge, although any dreams of making in the candy business were now shattered. So soon after that, he taught advertising and sales in the local college and by correspondence. It prospered from the beginning. In 1917, though, the military draft drafted all of his students again, wiped out the school and left him penniless. Welcome, Thomas. Glad to see you. Defeat number 7. And by the way, Hill, he was born in 1883 and he lived to 1970. He lived to be 87 years old. So we can see where this is in his lifetime of progression. So this is in 1919. That means he was now 17 plus 19, 30-some years old. 1919, 1 year after the war ended, Hill launched a new magazine to teach idealism. It prospered, probably because he tuned into what people would need, right? Then his printer attempted to buy out his share of the business. When Hill learned that that would mean he could not involve himself in any competing publications, he walked away from the magazine. And that was 1920. Defeat number 8. In 1921, he raised money for a new publication. Its success led to Hill's success as a speaker and a motivator. At the same time, he developed a correspondence school to rehabilitate prisoners, and that wildly succeeded too. Until 2 greedy board members, one who was the prison chaplain, led to its demise in 1923, and also the demise of Hill's magazine and other ventures. And Hill has said, if you dare to stick your neck out and be successful, there's going to be jealous people and there's going to be people working against you. And you have to be prepared for this, that could happen. Okay, that was, here now is defeat number 9. So Hill returned to teaching and lecturing. He then met a crusading newspaper publisher who offered to help and publish his work. They both worked to reform prohibition gangster activity. A dangerous endeavor, right? And this led to the murder of the publisher 1 week before they were to finalize the financing of Hill's book. They tried to kill Hill too, but he narrowly escaped and saved his life, but he had to hide out for a year. Destitute and afraid for his life, he fell into a depression. One night, he willed himself out of his depression and resolved to finish the book that Andrew Carnegie had proposed almost 20 years earlier. He worked night and day for almost 4 months to finish it. In 1928, he published it. It was a runaway success, a bestseller. Then came the stock market crash. Ups and downs, right? Stock market crash of 1929. The market fell out of everything, including books. He struggled through the Great Depression. He lectured and he wrote to revitalize America. And by the way, he was an advisor to 2 presidents during his earlier years. And he, even though he didn't have a job during one of them, during both of them, all he would charge them was $1 a year. He refused to accept any money for being a consultant and an advisor to the presidents. So even though during the last one he had no job and was destitute, he still would not accept pay for that. Okay, so during the Depression, he was lectured and wrote to revitalize America. In 1937, as the Depression was lifting, then Hill released Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich, different book than before. And he had a feeling that even people said, oh, the Depression's on and, people aren't going to want to buy this book because, they're not buying it during the Depression. He had a feeling that the time was right. People really needed this book to lift their spirits as they were coming out of the Depression, and it was true. It was a resounding success. The book sales were even before the Depression ended. So, and actually that book went on to sell, by now, 120 million copies in 100 languages. So it's been called by some people the top book of all time, and by any entrepreneurs, their favorite, most top recommended book. By many multimillionaires, motivational speakers, they say, oh, that's the one book everybody must read. Welcome, Bella. Welcome, Thomas. Glad to see you. So, what I got from this was that he felt like giving up a lot of times. It reminded me of a spiritual story I heard of the Tibetan saint Milarepa. And what happened was his teacher Marpa instructed him to build 4 towers. And to build a tower. After it was completed, he said, okay, now tear it down and move the stones in the earth back to where you found them. He did that. He said, okay, now rebuild it over here. And he did that. And then he said, okay, now when it was all, this is back-breaking work that took years and years each for each tower, right? And after the second tower was built, the same thing. He said, take it apart, put the earth and stones back where you got them. He did that. He was instructed to build a 3rd tower. He did that, and to take it apart. Then he was instructed to build a 4th tower. He did that. That one still stands today, and you can see pictures of it. But he learned through all of this, it was to teach him enlightenment, patience, and to rebuild. So that's pretty intense, isn't it? When people need to rebuild. I know that Eric Worre said he had to rebuild 8 times. So people do rebuild, right? The only defeat is staying down. And Hill writes, sometimes, well, let me finish. There's a little bit more. There's a little bit more before I read this. Another addition to his story, Your Great Success ending, is that when it came time for him to think of retirement, he and his wife said, okay, now it's time to retire. You've done a lot. You've done enough. Time to rest. He said, okay, but let's just finish out the speaking engagements I'd already have scheduled and promised people. So he did that. And I think it was on the last one that one of the attendees there was Samuel Clement Stone. And he met with Hill afterward and he said, hey, let's go into business together. Let's write these books. Let's teach these classes. And Hill said yes. So for the next 10 years, they wrote books, huge success, conducted a lot of courses that reached people all over the world, changed lives all over the world. And so his last 10 years, actually, that decade was actually the most productive, or actually, reached the most people. And I do want to back up and tell this another very interesting story of another success that Hill had that I think demonstrates, even at a young age, the principles that he writes about in the book. You see, he didn't just write these things. He was put to the test, which often happens when we agree to teach something, I know, or speak about something, it seems that life puts us through those lessons so that we can speak from experience, or it opens up the doors for us to learn that very, very thing for ourselves. And of course, then we can teach it and share it to others. So that's, to me, what Hill's life was about. It was about all these principles that he's writing about. And he's not just writing them. He was tested. He was tested. Life just does not hand over money, fame, leadership, followers, position, all that stuff, just willy-nilly. We nearly always have to earn it. And if we're given it, we often lose it because we didn't get the maturity required as we earned it. So life tests us. It says, okay, before I hand him or her the keys to, or the rewards for success, the money, the position, the people looking at you, can you earn it by being a person of character and worth and service to life? Before we give you the success, you have to earn it this way. And of course that brings the qualities of character that we need to add in to be able to be in that position of leadership well. So here's something that Hill did with his son Blair. You may have heard this. His son was born without ears. This was his second son. He married and had 3 children. It was his second son, Blair. And what he did with him, some people say it's the most challenging and the most gratifying of all of his successes. And what he did was, when he saw that his son didn't have any ears on both sides, he made a silent vow to himself and in his heart that he would find a way for his son to be able to hear and speak. And he lived by that. And actually, in the 2nd chapter of Think and Grow Rich, it's about desire, having a strong enough desire such as this. And he said, desire outwits nature. And he tells a story of how they did it, how they outwitted nature. You think, well, you'd give up, that would be impossible, right? What would be the use of trying and all that? But he just said, somehow, my son's going to hear. So what he did is he had this in his heart, and he told it to his son. In ways, I don't know how he, we'll explain how he did that in a little bit. But he did not let Blair learn sign language. He was so confident of this goal happening. He did not let him go to a school for the deaf. He put him in mainstream school, even though there was some resistance from the teachers, reluctance to have a child in there who could not hear. And at night he told him bedtime stories of self-reliance and imagination and a keen desire to be able to hear. And he taught his son Blair that you're not having ears is not a liability, but it's an asset that will bring you an asset of great value. And actually, Blair did find that many people, because of his disability, gave him extra kindness and extra support and extra attention. And it shows up later in his life too. But I think that's cool. When he taught his son, expect that this is going to be an asset. When otherwise, and his son got the kindness in return, when otherwise his son could have expected to be bullied or ostracized or made fun of or left out of things or something like that. But instead he taught him to expect that this will be an asset. Good things will come to you because of it. And Napoleon Hill says, every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Isn't that powerful? If we could live by that, remember that. So what he did is he taught his son to be very admirable in his conduct, so he was easily accepted, as a bright, friendly, and diligent young boy. And one time, he and his wife got this phonograph that played records. And what his son did is he went over and he clamped his teeth on the edge of it because he could hear his vibration, the vibration in the music through the bone conduction which went up to his hearing centers in his brain. And so he realized that he could hear through bone conduction. And his father, Napoleon Hill, would speak to him with his lips touching the bone behind his ear, or behind, where our ears are. And that worked. He could actually hear his father. So he learned that he could eventually hear his teachers when they spoke loudly and they were close. And Blair went through school and went actually into a university. And eventually, he tried a bunch of hearing aids and everything. They didn't work for him, but eventually he found one that was made specially for him, and it worked. He could hear normally. And he was so excited about that he thanked the company, met the developer of that, developed a marketing plan, was eventually hired to sell them. So it happened. It happened. And Napoleon Hill had that dream probably before there were even such things as hearing aids. He just knew that, had this determination that one day his son would be able to hear. So this is what Hill says. Sometimes it appears that there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test men through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive. And the world cries, "Bravo! I knew you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement, reading this, without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade. Those who can take it are rewarded bountifully for their persistence. They receive, as their compensation, whatever goal they're pursuing. And that is not all. They receive something infinitely more important than material compensation. They receive the knowledge that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. So persistence, the only failure is quitting, but failure does not mean defeat, right? Failure means a lesson. Failure means a lesson, not defeat. So when we embrace that lesson and use it, the reason we fail is because there's something to learn, and we don't just keep going blindly. We say, what can I learn from this? What do I need? Do I need skills? Do I need a different action? Do I need a different avenue? And keep trying until. How long do you keep trying? Until you get there, until you reach your goals. So, hope that this helps today in your inspiration towards persistence and understanding that failure is a lesson. And then we go a different way. Life says, okay, this ended. Napoleon Hill, he had avenues cut off. Let me see now what life wants me to do. Let me see now where my next success lies. And kept going. Penniless again and again, rose again and again. And I think he ended up doing very, very well by the end of his life. Probably a multimillionaire, I'm not sure, but I believe he did with Samuel Clement Stone. That partnership took him to definitely one of the richest men in the world. So he did it, he studied, he put it into action, and he climbed back again and again. I don't know about you, but this inspires me to realize that my setbacks are part of the journey. They're expected, they're necessary, they're part of the plan. To not get discouraged and down and say, oh, this is taking so long, this is so hard, this is bigger than me, because I'll tell you it's not. There's nothing that's bigger than you and your divine guidance if you're meant to do something. And I think that this divine power, God, would not put it in our hearts, put that desire, that holy desire in our hearts if it was not meant to be, if it didn't want it to happen, if it was not within our reach and our grasp, and if we could not overcome the failures. So hope that this helps today. Tomorrow, for the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, we continue at noon Eastern Time, like we've been doing for a year, Monday through Friday. Apologize for being late today. Had a number of reasons, but usually we're here at noon or shortly after noon Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. And tomorrow, what we're going to do is a recap of the book, Think and Grow Rich, because we just covered that over the last 3 weeks. And it's a very, very powerful, there's 13 lessons in it that Hill outlines. So we're going to recap these for you. I hope that you get your own book and read it or reread it too. Come back today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time right here on my page or Jeff Gamble's page. Both of us are going to be on together, bringing you a lesson that we do every week at Tuesday, 3 p.m. And today, the sample from our generic school, the MLM Millionaire Club for Network Marketers, today the topic is, where do I find people to talk to? That's the #1 question all network marketers have, and that your new recruit has. So we're going to solve that today, so that you can know where to never run out of people to talk to, really. So that will be today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right back here, my page, Jeff Gamble's page. And we also want to let you know about an open house that's coming up on Sunday, July 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. People are getting their free, we're going to be teaching how to always get a yes when prospecting. This is actually an open house for our school, the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers. So we're going to be teaching this because people are getting results with it in the school. They're booking appointments like they never have before. They are making advances, jumping ranks like they never have before. It's tremendous what the results they're getting. It's the simplest, easiest, most duplicatable method I've ever seen ever in network marketing. And it's simple, you guys. It's real simple. It doesn't get a no. It doesn't get objections. It works with all 4 personalities. Doesn't need a video. Works with all levels of influence, genders, countries. Duplicatable. Yeah, I think you'll love to learn about it and love to hear about it. I'd like every network marketer to know about it, because the ones who are using it say, "Oh yeah, I use this all the time. It really works great." So that people are getting their tickets. They're free. We're giving this away, free tickets to this event at a link that I'll post in a minute. And but we're also having a free book giveaway. So when you get your free ticket, that enters you in a drawing, because we're going to give away a load of personal growth books that will be mailed out to you. That enters you in the drawing. You must be present to win. But even if you're not present and you've registered, you can still get your hands on the replay. So I will post that link now. Thank you for joining in. We'll see you at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's go do some good in the world. People need to hear about network marketing. They need you to be the leader so they can get to a better life. That's what we're all doing, right? Okay, everybody, take care. See you later. Bye-bye.